Alright, so this week we are testing out 3 different lenses, all at completely different price points, but they all do the same thing, 50mm f1.2. So what are we getting out of a better lens? Can we even see a difference? So I've basically been spending my life comparing these 3 so we can nerd out over them, take a closer look. We also have Artlist sponsoring this episode, so if you like any of the music, links down there in the description, but more on them in a little bit. Now, if you're a big fan of wide open apertures for either that super blurry background or you want to really shoot in dark places and still be able to see, then f1.2 is pretty much as wide open as they get. Now, there are still lenses that are wider than this, but that definitely enters specialty territory. But f1.2 can be pretty functional still and still crazy fast. So I'm super excited. Are you excited, Dylan?
So excited.
Yeah. No, a little more. Yeah! But check this out. This is a 50mm f1.2 from this company called Meike, Mike. I don't know. This is an EF mount. You can pick one of these up for $360. And we have a Canon f1.2. This one's about $1,400. I'm also renting a Sony 50mm f1.2, and that's closer to $2,000. So there are obvious differences. Like this one does not have autofocus, doesn't even have any contacts in the back to communicate with the camera, what kind of lens it is or anything like that. But how about image quality? Nuclear Frank says less aperture blades, maybe lower quality bokeh, chromatic aberration, fringing, but the old EF 1.2 isn't that good either. Tyler thinks there's going to be some differences in sharpness when it's wide open. Contrast and colors won't be as good in the cheap one. Let's start wide open. I have an ND 1000 on here right now so that I can actually shoot wide open here. And let's get some comparison shots. Are you ladies ready to model?
They're the best models. They don't complain like I do.
Looks like Peta's having a hard time staying awake with me talking about lenses.
Not her favorite topic.
All right, so you think I'm gonna get stumped?
Every single time.
No, I don't get stumped. Okay, I'm a professional. I do this for a living. Ooh, okay. This is actually a little bit tougher than I thought. We're getting a little bit more exposure out of the one on the right. So even though they both have an f-stop of f1.2, sometimes the amount of light coming out the back is a little bit different. So you want to use t-stops for that because that measures more of what's coming out the back, but it only gets measured in the center for t-stops. Anyways, okay, so they're both pretty sharp, but the background blur is softer on A. So I'm gonna go ahead and say A is the better one, although I would think the Canon would let more light through. But I'm gonna go with the one on the left is the Canon.
Left is not Canon.
What?
Uh-oh. It's getting shook.
Oh,
That's only the first one.
Next shot, A and B. Okay, this one's pretty obvious. A is not the Canon because of that flare down there.
Left one is the Meike, yes.
Yes. Canon definitely does a better job suppressing those flares with its coating. All right, so here I know that the A is Canon because it's just brighter. And yeah, definitely more texture in the bokeh back here. See how you can kind of make out the circles, but here it's actually softer, which is interesting. I would have thought the cheaper lens would give us more of that circular pattern in the background. So since the exposure difference is a dead giveaway, I'm going to drop the exposure on the Canon. All right, so that should make it harder to tell the difference again. I was expecting some color shift in the cheaper lens and also less contrast maybe, but you know, they're both actually pretty good. I'm actually having a really tough time telling the difference. Like this shot here, I'm looking pretty closely and I could tell, okay, A is definitely the Canon here, but you know, I honestly would lean towards the look of B here. What's interesting is there's some clear differences, but it's not like I love one more than the other. All right, we got ourselves a G Master. Check that out. There's some advantages to a lens that is specifically designed for mirrorless. So these two are EF lenses. So instead of having to pass it through an adapter like this, you can design a lens to just be right up against the sensor with a tiny flange distance. And you can see there's a glass element just like right up to the very tip right there. Now this EF 50mm is pretty outdated, but there is a new RF version if you are on the Canon platform. I'm gonna go ahead and shoot a sequence with these 3 lenses and label them A, B, and C, and let's see if you can tell which one is which.
Having limits is as lame as flat soda. Speed limits, credit card limits, how many birthdays you can have in a year. But if you want to be as Free Willy jumping over a kid somewhere by the water, check out Artlist Unlimited plan. Artlist is like a buffet for the ears with a wide selection of music and sound effects. And you won't ever get full, so you can keep going back for more and no one's gonna stop you. With an unlimited subscription, you get unlimited downloads. How many social media platforms can you use this on? Unlimited. I'm talking your YouTube channel, your your mom's Instagram for skateboarding, your cat's TikTok channel because she wants to be a star. But forget about your family and friends. What about your clients? You know the people that give you money can use this on any of their projects? Well, it's one word with 3 letters: yes. Once you download a song or sound effect with an active subscription, it's yours to use forever, even if you don't resubscribe. So if you become a vampire, you won't ever have to worry about the license expiring.
I do also want to mention that the Artlist sound effects library is the best sound effects library that I've personally used. It's very well organized and the consistency is great, and pricing is really competitive. The personal will cover you in all these social media platforms, but it is 1 channel per platform. And for you fancy hotshots out there, we got the unlimited plan for the commercial work, the broadcast work. Sound effects can be licensed separately or be tacked on top. And if you use the link down there in the description, then you get 2 extra months free. So go check it out. And back to talking about lenses. So any thoughts on which lens was which? So this is lens C, which is the Meike. Man, I need to learn how to say this lens. I don't know how much of this was in focus because we're at f1.2. Like I just leaned back just slightly and we are out of focus. And while we're here, I do want to check out how different that background blur is between this f1.2. Okay, and now we are around an f1.4, and of course the exposure is gonna drop, but I'm more looking at the background blur. I'll try to color grade this to kind of match in terms of exposure. And now we are at f1.8. Now, if you're okay with this amount of blur at this distance, then an f1.8 is going to be way less money. Like check it out, a 50mm f1.8 is $248 compared to the f1.2, which is almost an extra digit on top. And then if you want to split the difference, you could go with something like a Sigma f1.4, $949. But this G Master is nice because we can adjust our aperture manually, and it's smooth right now, which is perfect for video, but you can de-click it or click it back on, and now there's steps. You can hear it, and you can pop it all the way over to the A, so you control the aperture through the camera. The focus ring is a focus ring with no hard stops. So if you're going manual focus, this ring actually does kind of feel the best. It's nice and fluid. We're getting about a 1/4 turn on the focus. I wouldn't mind a little bit more for that precision. No electronics in the back. Man, look how big that is. That's the f1.2 for you. This is also the only lens to close down to an f22. The others go down to an f16. Canon EF just has a autofocus, manual focus, and this ring. Only way to control the aperture is through those electronics, which can be a downside because when you're adjusting your aperture in a shot, it's going to have steps. Speaking of focus, this is the minimum focus distance for the Meike lens right here. So it's a solid close-up, but if you want to get any closer than this, then you are out of luck. Now we are on the Sony, which gives us awesome autofocus here, which is great. Even at f1.2, it seems like it's holding on pretty good. And I came a little bit closer. Yeah, check that out. When will I lose my focus? Right there. And now we're on the Canon, which is also pretty good. Not as good as the Sony, but way better than the Meike lens. So if you are trying to get some extreme close-ups or product shots, then you'll probably need to use an adapter for this, which I did make a video about. So if you're looking to convert your lens into a super macro lens, then go ahead, click that. I do like having a good minimum focus distance in a lens like this because you could make those bokeh balls huge in the background when you pull that focus all the way towards you.
Every time you say bokeh balls, I always want to say bokeh balls. Like,
Da-na-na.
yeah, like that.
Okay, so this is my first time trying out a 1.2 manual focus lens. So what I need to do is turn on the focus peaking. Chilling right there. Let's get a little bit close right there. For $360, I think it's a killer deal. It helps because you have focus peaking in the camera. So that's why it makes it worth it, I believe.
without focus peaking in the camera, this would be really
Exactly. The focusing ring, it's really damp, and I like that. It's got a red ring, so you know what that means. It's high quality.
I am assuming no stabilization in it?
No stabilization.
No autofocus?
No autofocus.
So it says, you'll enter into a new world of broken. This is from their site.
Enter into a new world of broken. Oh, of broken.
Yeah.
Laga. Oh, Laga. Aperture, yeah.
Laga aperture?
Yeah, I know about Laga
I haven't
aperture.
worked for 2 months, dude. I'm already broken.
Your images will be more artistic and engaged. It's not the best lens, but for the price, I think it's great. I wish I could get a little bit closer, to be honest.
Yeah, the minimum focus distance,
Yeah.
not so great on
No.
there.
It has a really good feel to it. Hey, I'm trying to tell a story here, and you guys are just.
Oh, hey, what are you doing here?
I've been waiting at home, waiting for you to text me to come hang
Oh,
out.
hey, check out this lens.
What if I want to get all up in there?
Minimum focus distance is not the best.
Dude, honestly, it's not bad. Like the build quality, it feels fancy. It's not all plasticky and stuff.
Yeah.
Just that minimum focus is kind of sucks. How much is this?
360 something bucks.
I would buy that.
So the Meike is definitely popular at parties, and of course it is. It's a 50mm f1.2 that you can buy for less than a memory card. You know, CF Express Type A cards are expensive, man. But let me give you a warning that at f1.2 manual focus is really hard. But check this out. This is the Sony lens right here, and boom. See how it focuses on my front eye? That's because I have it set to that, but look at that. That is really hard to do, especially when someone's like as fidgety as me. We've kind of already figured out that Canon has that flare, but then you compare it to the Meike, which is much more distinct, just boom in your face. But flares aren't always bad. Sometimes they get in the way, but sometimes they look really, really cool. Some people take really nice lenses and remove the front coating for it, so they get more of these characteristics in there. And of course, lens hoods will go a very long way to cut down a lot of those flares, but I just left everything off for the sake of this comparison. This shot's interesting. Here, the Canon is definitely flaring quite a bit more. Now, the Meike gives us more of this rainbow flare. And again, there's that big old flare. When it comes to exposure, we already established that the Meike is not as good as the Sony and Canon. This is me filming a white wall. So I actually compared the Meike to a T1.5 Cine lens that I have right here. And even though the Meike is at f1.2, it's still just right there with the T1.5. So if you're looking at the Meike specifically for that extra boost in exposure, you might as well get like a decent f1.4, and it's probably going to give you the same amount of light out the back of the lens. All right, let's go ahead and look at a few more shots here of Dylan looking epic. Here's a rack focus from the background. The bokeh for the Canon definitely seems the harshest in terms of the ring here. Now here, they're all giving us that flare right there from the sun, but look how clean this cutout is right here around his shirt. Here we get a lot of contamination from that flare right here, and same here, we get multiple rings, but that Sony, nice and clean. Now the colors are a little bit different here in the studio. The Canon comes across kind of yellow, the Sony comes across closer to the red, and the Meike seems to split the difference. Now this is where the Sony really starts to push ahead here. And now we have the focus set to the very front here, and check out the edges. Here it's nice and clean in terms of color, but here we have a point that is further back than our focus point, and we see that green fringing, so it's the opposite from that magenta purple. But the more shots I did, the more I noticed the chromatic aberration. If you look along the top of the machine, you see that purple fringing. We see a little bit in the Meike, but the Sony keeps it really tight. And check this out. Sony, that bokeh nice and clean and even. That Canon EF gives us this green ring, and so does the budget Meike lens. So this is a stoplight back here, which is why the colors keep changing. This is the same shot, but I just pulled that focus as close as it gets, and just look how clean and even that Sony looks compared to the others. Now we're looking at the left edge of the frame, so we can see that cat's eye bokeh starting to form. The same thing, but on the right side. So far we've been shooting everything wide open, but let's close down to f1.8, and you can start to see the aperture blades appearing. Sony still looks pretty round, but once we get to 2.8 is where we start to be able to make out the edges on the Sony, and then this is 4, and finally 5.6. Here we can definitely see the different types of flare. The Sony definitely keeps it together. The Meike gives us this big old rainbow, and the Canon gives us that purple ring. But if you actually look at the lenses on the phone, you're seeing a lot of chromatic aberration out of this Canon. Here's another example. Canon is not doing a great job keeping that fringing together. Now, one thing I noticed is whenever I film my motorcycle, it's like deadly for a lens with chromatic aberration. So check this out. We're already seeing some chromatic aberration out of this Canon here on the headlight, but when we push the focus back, check it out, man, it just glows purple. It's like focus peaking, but it's kind of like the opposite. It only appears when it's out of focus. The Meike surprisingly keeps it together when it's in focus, but of course when we drift out, we see it appear. But man, look how clean this Sony is. It's just nice and consistent. The colors don't drift. You wonder why you're paying $2,000 for a lens that has the same specs as something that's 360 bucks. This is why. That is a good quality lens. But the Sony, just so clean from start to finish. Man, I kind of want this lens now. Shoot. Here's me trying to look cool, and the shutter speed is faster on this. I'm trying to get some screen grabs out of this so I could use it as a thumbnail, but see how I'm in focus. We see actually a little bit of that green appear behind the focus point, and then the purple in the bike that's in front of the focus point. Look how clean the Sony looks, like no green here, no purple here. And the Meike is not as bad as the Canon, but we definitely see some, and that green in the back. Like there's a lot of things that are pretty subjective, like lens flares, and do you want it sharp, do you want it soft, you know, but I feel like chromatic aberration is something that everyone can agree that purple glow right there, it's ugly. And even just that hint of it there, it's not nice. But this looks so natural and so clean. I love it. So I think it's safe to say that the Sony is the clear winner. And when you buy like a G Master lens, this is the kind of stuff you're paying for. Now the Canon definitely feels a bit outdated, which it is. It's been around for a while, but it's that chromatic aberration just kind of ruins it for me. And wide open, it just feels a little bit tough to get that crisp, sharp focus. It definitely cleans up once you close it down to like an f1.8, but you're paying for the f1.2. Canon actually has some pretty reasonable 50mm f1.4s. That's EF, $400. That is a fraction of the cost. And if you go 1.8, you can get that nifty 50 right there, 125 bucks. And then of course the Canon RF. And oh man, I'm gonna have to try this out one of these days. I bet you the image out of there is so perfect and clean and sharp. Haven't tried that out yet, so can't say for sure. But when it comes to this Meike lens, I'm honestly surprised that it didn't lose at every single thing. There were many times where it actually looked quite a bit better than that L series $1,300 Canon. Minimum focus distance isn't great, but good enough to get like a close-up of Peta. And here I was just seeing how different it looks if I pulled off the ND filter. Now to adjust for the exposure, I really have to crank that shutter speed, as you can see, but the flares seem pretty comparable. Same here with the Meike. We're still getting the same type of rainbow flare. So this is how it looks with no ND filter in front. Let's see if we got any more comments here. This is all I use Instagram for. Philip Bloom says manual focus will be better on the cheap one. That is actually very true. The Meike definitely feels the best in terms of the focus, the amount of friction and the resistance it has. It feels really good. JM Bernicle says bad color fringing and chromatic aberration. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that bothers me, but I think we pretty much covered enough for this video. Links down there in the description if you're interested in any of these lenses. They're affiliate links, so thank you for making me rich. And end hack time.